New School. Welcome back to the Noob School, episode 136, did we say?
I like it.
Okay, 136.
As long as there's a 6.
A friend going back till, let's see, 24 plus 4, 28 years?
Yeah, 1996.
That's pretty cool. Melissa Morrell,
Yep.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you ever go by Missy?
No. My mother literally told people never ever call her Missy.
Good.
So
Good.
I was named after my great grandmother, Melissa.
Good.
So I love my name. Now people sometimes shorten it and say Mel. It's just certain people do it.
Yeah.
Don't really love that either because I don't think I'm a Mel.
Yeah.
I think I'm a Melissa.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with it.
Mel almost sounds like a man's name.
It does. I think about Mel's Diner.
Yeah, that's what I was
when
thinking.
I think of that.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. And there was a guy on the Dick Van Dyke show well before your time.
Yeah.
Named Mel.
Yeah.
It was
No,
like
I know. Okay, I know that.
The boss.
Yeah. So Melissa's prettier. Plus, I have a
I
song.
think we've covered everything now. I think we've
About my
covered,
name?
Yeah, we covered all the name stuff.
Okay.
But Melissa, besides having an interesting name, is the number one agent, I believe, in Greenville.
Number one agent for the number one company.
Joyner Company. Mm-hmm. For 13 years.
Correct. And hopefully for 14.
How's it looking this year?
It looks good, actually. It
Okay.
looks good.
Okay.
But you never know.
Yeah.
I have some great colleagues that are killers in the business too,
Yeah.
but tracking well. So,
Good.
yeah.
I'm happy, happy for
Thank
you.
you.
So happy for you. So you have made a career out of selling real estate in Greenville, but more specifically in what part of Greenville?
I would say my wheelhouse is more in the suburbs of Greenville.
Okay.
Just because my husband and I settled in Simpsonville.
Yeah.
And 3 kids later, and you kind of grow from where you live
Right.
and go to church and go to the gym and so forth. So Simpsonville, Greer, Greenville, but you'll see me pop up in Taylor's, Powdersville,
Yeah.
Augusta Road.
Yeah.
So it just depends.
I remember a while back, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I called you as my longtime friend.
Yeah.
I said, hey, my son's moving back. You
Yeah.
know, can you help me find this little, small house for him, whatever. You asked me where, and you're like, I think someone else could do a better job
Yeah,
than that.
and that's the thing. I'm definitely honest.
Yeah.
On the listing side and the buying side, because if I'm not 100% comfortable with something, I know I'm not going to do the best job.
Meaning you don't know the comps and
Yeah,
things
you
like
just.
that.
I mean, real estate is very much, street by street, school by school. It's you just can't go off of what you see on Zillow or Realtor.com. You really need to know it well.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a disservice to a client or a potential client if I don't really know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I won't do a good job.
Well,
Or as good as I probably
you're
could.
clearly doing that. Someone could be number one year, but not
Right.
13 years and not
Right.
be doing
Yeah.
getting references and referrals
Right.
and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we've established that you're crushing it in real estate, particularly in Simpsonville and suburbs. And a lot of people would like to do what you're doing. A lot of salespeople would like to have their own business, which you do, right? And you're selling real estate for the best company, Joyner.
Absolutely.
And I know I knew Mr. Joyner going back to when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and know I know Beth and Danny and some of the other ones too.
Yeah.
David Krigler.
Yeah. David hired me.
Did he?
Yep. He was
Yeah.
the broker back in 2003, and I just immediately felt comfortable instantly with that company.
They're great.
And they're
They're
family.
great.
They're absolutely my family.
That's great. Well, I know they're glad you're part of the family.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So let's talk about your story and how you got there. And along the way, any sales lessons or things you learned that you did right or wrong that helped you
Lord.
kind of get. Me too. I mean,
Yeah.
get what you wanted.
Yeah.
And I'll give you something I did wrong one time.
Okay.
I was just out of school, and my dad, was a great business guy in Greenville, and I was just kind of trying to figure out what to do. And he says, "Well, I know this guy. He's really good. He's like 35. He's a sales manager at this tech company. I mean, everything that I would want to do, right?"
Sure.
And so I called him up. Said, "Hey, my dad says, it was so bad." But he says yes. He goes, "Yeah, okay, I'll talk to you." He goes, "I like to maybe have a breakfast meeting." And I'm like, "All right, sounds good to me. I like breakfast, So he goes, why don't we meet about 7 o'clock, up at the Bojangles or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So the next day I woke up and looked at the clock. It's about 10:15.
Oh, God.
I mean, literally, didn't just barely miss it.
Like 3 hours later.
3 hours.
Let's meet for lunch at Bojangles.
Did you say breakfast or lunch? So, yeah. I mean,
7 p.m.?
We're all going to make some mistakes along the way.
Absolutely.
But go ahead. Tell us about your story.
Well, so my story begins, my mother was a real estate agent.
Okay.
So she actually got her license back in the early 80s. She was a former school teacher. My dad was a football coach and teacher. So I have a little bit of grit and grace.
Okay.
My dad is more like a kind of the old 70s Dallas Cowboys type of football coach. I mean, he is mean as a snake. He's still alive. An incredible football coach, highly competitive. And then my mother.
Where was this?
So my parents met in Kentucky and then moved to Charleston.
Okay.
His first job was at Garrett High School in Hanahan. Yeah. And then he was hired at Fort Johnson, which is no more. Now it's James Island High School. But he won the 3A state championship in 72 and 73. So I was a little thing. Yeah. And, but incredible coach. My mom was a school teacher, and, as life happens sometimes, they ended up parting ways, getting a divorce. But prior to that, Mom had gotten her real estate license and just dabbled in it a bit, but knew she really liked it. They actually say that the best real estate agents are former school teachers.
Interesting.
I think it's true, though, because I think you have to work with so many different publics, so to speak, as a school teacher. And you're also super goal-oriented and detail-oriented. So I can see why. Yeah. So I definitely learned a lot through osmosis, just being around her, being in the car with her, going to open houses during the 80s and 90s when we didn't have the internet of today. So, but my background was in journalism. I went to the University of South Carolina, knew I wanted to write, thought I was going to be, this will age me, the next Connie Chung. But realized quickly that, gosh, I don't know if I want to do broadcast journalism. So I thought, let me get on the other side of it and do public relations. Yeah. So fast forward 10 years, including working with you at DataStream and PR. I decided after baby number 2, gosh, I don't know if I want to do this 9 to 5 thing anymore.
Going to work every day.
Yeah. And just not having that flexibility to be at whether it's a dentist appointment or a school play. It was just so hard. So my mother encouraged me when I was pregnant with our first child, Ashley, why don't you get your real estate license and just go ahead and get it and just hold on to it. You might use it one day. I'm like, okay, whatever. So went to the Wyatt Institute here in Greenville and got the license while pregnant, working full time. And sure enough, that was Ashley was born in 98, so I got my license in 98, but then never actually used it until 2003 when I met a custom home builder here in the area. And met with him originally just to do his marketing. Because I was doing a lot of freelance work, kind of left the corporate world and just said, I'm going to freelance write, started doing things and connected with him. And from there he said, well, didn't you say you have your license? And I said, well, I do, but I need to activate it. Yeah. Well, you have to remember what year this is. So it's at that point, we had met in 2002, it's 2003 and the market is just starting to, do this. And I'm like, okay. So I literally walked in the door, having actually interviewed a couple places in town, went with David Krigler at C.D. & Joyner. We were Prudential C.D. & Joyner at that time. Okay. Met with him and sat down, was comfortable, and said, well, I have 7 listings from this builder, which is very atypical. You don't walk in the door with listings. So I was very, very blessed. Started with that company, and unfortunately, like many custom home builders, the recession was bad. We went out of business, not we, but the company. I wasn't part of it necessarily, but very much a part of it at the same time. Was at ground zero in 2009, and looked at my husband, who is my, besides my mother, who has passed, is definitely my biggest cheerleader. And I looked at him and I said, we are getting ready to spend a lot of money that we don't have, because I've got to now establish my own brand. I had been so associated with that builder,
Yeah.
and it was a beautiful relationship. We're
Yeah.
still very dear friends.
Yeah.
He's actually one of my major sponsors for the event we'll talk about
Good,
later.
good.
And decided that, okay, I'm just going to create a brand and we're going to go for it. And so Tony actually helped me come up with Greenville's Agent 24/7
Nice.
in 2009.
Nice.
So, and I think that I realized quickly, because again, I had been so focused on the builder side of the business that I had never done general brokerage, so to speak. Just I was basically cultivating custom deals, selling the spec homes, which is real estate. It was
Yeah.
just now it's kind of going down a different path.
Right.
And again, we are deep in the recession. I mean, 8 to really 12.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awful.
I
in real
remember,
estate.
I
It was
remember
bad.
this. I'm not in the real estate business, but I can remember, when the music stopped and everything stopped. I mean, people
Yeah.
were no longer doing construction. And then it was about maybe 2 years or 2.5 years later, I'm riding around and all of a sudden I saw like a truck up in front of a house and they were like starting to fix the house. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah, maybe
they're coming back.
I know.
They're coming back.
Because it was a strange phenomenon. I remember calling my mother, who was alive then and very much active in real estate. I'm like, I'm putting signs in the ground, and they're like, we're selling them before we're even at drywall. And what is a balloon loan and an interest only loan? And she's like, just roll with it, just roll. And I'm like, okay. So it was just very much a lender driven
Yeah.
marketplace, which
Yeah.
of course we all know crashed. So again, I learned a lot through realizing never put your eggs all in one basket. That was probably a key lesson for me. Never get too big for your britches. I think a lot of times people think, as my career has grown and changed and evolved, sometimes they won't call me to sell a $300,000 house, thinking that, oh, she's only Miss Luxury or something. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I kind of use the example of, I will sell a $150,000 house or a $1.5 million house.
Yeah.
I do not care.
Yeah.
I'm here to service you, because when you sell that house, then I'm going to sell you the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell your neighbor and your babysitter and your grandmama about
Exactly
me.
right.
And this is how the game is played.
Right.
It's not a
Yeah.
game, but that's how that's how it operates.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So.
and then their children start the same cycle over again.
Yeah. And I think a lot of folks, and I've told some of these stories, so to speak, to other agents within our company, they think this happens fast. I've done this for 21 years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen fast.
Right.
And I also know what it feels like to go, how are we going to pay the mortgage and private tuition for 3 children and keep this lifestyle? And so I definitely, and thank God, because I have the grit and grace in me, I'm very competitive,
Right.
mostly with myself more than anybody else.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't care what other people are doing, but I usually compete against me
Right.
more than anybody else. And I'm hard on myself,
Right.
so I get after it.
Well, what kind of things, Melissa, because everyone who goes into real estate would like to be the number one agent and make a certain amount of money. But what kind of things are you doing? Like, obviously, it didn't happen in year 1. If it's been 13 years, it happened like in year 7 or year 8.
Yeah.
When you finally broke through and were the number one person. What are you doing that other people aren't doing?
Honestly, it just sounds so simple, but it's just follow up and follow through.
Yeah.
Like if you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it. Have I made mistakes and fallen short? Of course we all have. We're human beings. But I think that just treating people the way that you want to be treated
Right.
is critical. It's just, what I do is not rocket science.
Yeah.
But I think if you treat people the right way, my mom said that, she said, babe, at year 10, if you have done the right things, it will fall like manna from the sky. And it did, and it continues to be that way. Because at this point, while I do billboards and ads and direct mail and social media, at the end of the day, probably 80% plus of my business comes from referrals.
Right.
And that's what I think that you've done the right thing.
Right.
I don't think there's anything overly special about what I do, but I do think that people overall know that they can trust me
Yeah.
and that I'm going to listen to them and I'm going to take care of them.
Yeah.
I'm not there, and this comes from CDAN, Joyner. If you start immediately calculating your commission, you're in the wrong business.
Right.
I mean, yes, we all want to feed our families and we want to do better in life and all of that. But if that's where your focus is, you will not last in this business and you won't be happy
Right.
at the end of the day.
Right.
Because it is not an easy business at all. Houses are easy, people are not. It's hard.
Right. And
It's very hard.
Give us an example for those of us not in your business. But, I think about like when I bought a house.
Yep.
That it was a little bit of negotiating through the agent.
Yeah.
Okay, this much, all right.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, we're all done. And then you go to a closing and you write a check and sign something.
Yeah.
So how much more work is there?
There's a lot. There's definitely a lot of work.
What else are you doing that makes my life easy?
Yeah, I think that it depends on which side you're on. If I'm listing a property, then to me, the greatest value I bring is in the preparation of the property. Because if you don't prepare it, and if you're not honest with people, like if you don't walk in and say, with a smile on your face, it smells like cat urine, and we're going to have to paint this room, and we're going to have to change this light. Now, granted, what I suggest depends on what's happening in the marketplace.
Right.
But even during what I call the COVID years, I still told people or encouraged them, paint that room, change that light, let's get rid of the cat urine smell, because you may make more money on this house than you ever could have imagined. Why not do 3 or 4 extra things, and we're going to get maybe 4 more offers versus, 2.
Yeah.
Because back then it was just pure insanity. So I think that number 1 is preparation.
Yep.
Number 2, it's pricing strategy. I mean, if you don't price something right out of the gates,
Yeah.
it can kill you.
Yeah.
Truly. And again, it's all about you have to look at the numbers. You have to make sure your clients understand that you're coming at this strategically. Like, this is why, and running net sheets and showing them what they're going to come away with. I think a lot of times agents are too, and again, I've gotten better at it with age and experience, but when you have to start talking numbers and compensations and commissions, it can get real awkward real fast.
Yeah.
But like, why are we there? Like, I'm at your table in your breakfast room to sit down and like, let's talk about this.
Right.
And this is your biggest investment that I'm going to help you sell and potentially go and help you buy something. So preparation, price, and then certainly gets into the negotiation side of it. We've all gotten, I think me included, sometimes complacent about not making a phone call. I can get so much more out of people if I pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Versus texting
Yeah.
with another agent or even with a client. You've
Yeah.
got to get in front of people and really understand where they're coming from, because everybody's got baggage.
Yeah.
Everybody's gotten burned.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with agents, you can really find out a lot more than you can through a quick text message, and work together to get there. And obviously represent your client's best interest, but also I'm going to be working with those real estate agents a lot longer, most likely, than that potential client.
Yeah.
We're going to be around each other in this community. So,
Yeah.
and that's on the listing side of
Yeah.
things. And then buying side, certainly it's, it can be a quick sort of experience where, oh my gosh, I'm coming into town and I've got to find something in 72 hours, and you're just, running and gunning and hoping, depending on the marketplace, you've got inventory, you're making good decisions, and you're not being hasty. And I usually tell my clients, I'm going to probably come across like Debbie Downer. When I go into a house with you, it's super easy to look, oh my God, look at the quartz countertops and the new light,
I can
blah,
see us
blah.
here.
I'm
I
like,
can see us here.
that's easy.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, I'm going into the crawl space. We're going to walk around the lot. I'm going to see if it smells funny anywhere. I'm going to look at the floors, look at the ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find the things that they're probably not going to see. Either they don't want to see them, or they simply don't have the experience to see them.
Right.
And it's a lot of smelling and seeing and just knowing things from having done it this long. And I had the luxury of working for a custom home builder.
Yeah.
So I come at it from a different, I think, lens, so to
Right.
speak. And then you have those clients that you've had for 3 years versus 3 days. And you have to stay in touch and figure out, okay, why can't we find what you want?
How do you do that? What is your system for staying in touch with your prospects?
Yeah, I mean, I basically, every single week, and it depends on what's happening with that transaction
Yeah.
or with that client, but, and this sounds so old school, but yes, I have a lot of things that are more techie, but I love to have like a legal pad and I write things down. I remember things because I write them. That's how I studied.
Yep.
I was not an auditory learner. I definitely had to see it, write it, and that's how I could remember things. And every single day I have a to-do list down to when I'm going to shower, when I'm going to work out, when I'm going to be able to eat lunch.
Yeah.
It's that specific.
Yeah.
I also do it for safety reasons because I want my family to know where I am beyond Life 360 because
Yeah.
I could get kidnapped and be taken into somebody's basement.
Right.
But I'm very much every single morning, every single night, I'm going through every single prospect, every single current client, current upcoming listing, current closing, and just making sure that is everybody okay where they need to be.
And where do you track those in a spreadsheet? Those
Yeah,
clients?
yeah,
You have a spreadsheet?
yeah. And a lot of it is, again, it sounds old school, but it's like handwritten and typing and just updating constantly.
I mean, obviously.
I'm
some
a
of those-
fast typist.
Some of those people you'll call, but a lot of them you'll just send an email or a text
Yeah,
to.
an email or a
Just
text
say, what's
to.
going on? How you doing?
Yeah.
How about Clemson? How about Carolina?
Yeah, absolutely. And just
Okay.
staying in touch. And I've never been a cold call girl. I've never been going after expired listings, withdrawn. Again, that is a beautiful business model for somebody. It's not for me. It never
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah.
I also farm neighborhoods and go after certain places where I know I've had success
Yeah.
and can capture those listings because, again, I was trained by my mother, by CD and Joyner and that company that if you control the listings, you control the market. And I also want to have a life, a marriage, community service, our children. If I can stay at like 70-30, 70% listings, 30% buyers, it's a beautiful ratio. Now, granted, that could flip real fast because you suddenly have 4 that go under contract and they need houses. It can be 50-50 real fast.
Right.
But
This requires a lot more of your time.
it does when
Okay.
because the buying side, you could just spend hours upon hours in the car,
Yeah.
weekend after weekend, week after week, evening after
looking.
evening. And it's part of it. And it
Yeah.
makes you a better agent. And that's why I love to sell things from 150 to 1.5, here, there, because it makes me know what's happening in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And it also, when you're working with people that are like a first-time home buyer, it always sharpens my skills. It helps me know that, like, gosh, I haven't said it like that in a while.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that this is clear and concise and confident, because you can get real. To me, it's like, when you talk to doctors sometimes,
Yeah.
they start using acronyms and language you don't understand.
Yeah.
And that drives me nuts
Yeah.
when other people do that. So I try to always make it just really simple or use things that I think that they'll relate to.
Yeah.
If they're into football or if they're into hiking or whatever, just relate to them.
Well, I still do a weekly sales class
Yeah.
online for noobs, for even people that aren't even salespeople yet, like who want to be salespeople. And I do it for that same reason. Part of the reason I do it is because I keep seeing that there's new things they're asking about. The
Right.
market's changing.
Oh my gosh,
We certainly
yeah.
don't do it the way we used to. And so it keeps me fresh with all that. Plus, of course, I like doing it. I like
Yeah.
helping people. But,
Yeah.
but
And I think
yeah.
it makes you, because everybody can get sort of, what do you do for a living? I'm a realtor. Blah. You can get, and I tell my kids the same way. If you cannot find joy,
Yeah.
and it's different than happiness,
Yeah.
and that's different from, I don't know, whatever other word, I can't think of it right now, but I think you have to find joy in what you do. And yeah, I had those days and months where it's like, I'm having a hard time
Yeah.
finding the joy.
Yeah.
But that's when I really have to sit down and go, why? It's not because of them, it's because of me.
Yeah.
And that's when I go to a class, or I just do something in the community just to try to reinvigorate myself, because life is short and you want to be joyful and you want to be happy and not look up and go, well, that was fun. I don't want to be, I always tell my children, I'm like, do not put on my tombstone, she was one hell of a real estate agent. Like, I don't want to be known as that. I definitely want to be known, as something more than that. I'm more than my job.
Yeah.
But my job has also been able to allow me to meet so many different people and experience so many different things and learn so many from other people. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And listening to their stories.
Yeah. And we did some coaching on that very specific thing. The difference between who you are and what you do.
Absolutely.
And so many people get so wrapped up in what they do.
It defines you. I'm like, no.
When it's over, it's just like, it's just they.
Yeah. What do you do? What do you do now?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't like that.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, how do you do all this? And because it's just me. I don't have a team. I have one person, a dear person who helps me behind the scenes with more administrative stuff. She's not a licensed agent, but I just thankfully have a lot of energy.
Yeah, you
and
do.
Thank God. And but I also have systems. Like you have to just. And my systems may not work for somebody else, and other people may think they're weird.
They work for you.
They work for me. And if you're consistently working your system, whatever that is, and I have numbers in my head of like, I always have to have this many in the pipeline, this many coming. And if it's not happening, what can I do to make it happen? Because it'll drive me bananas if I'm not busy. I hate not being busy.
Was there somebody, like, I'm just going to make it simple, Simpsonville is where you live and it's kind of your primary market. Was there some, and you are definitely the boss over there. Was there someone who was the boss before you that you knocked out, or did you just take a mantle that wasn't there?
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay. But it took you a lot of work to get there. My point is, once you got there, then as long as you don't stop working, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because you already have this big lead.
Right,
so people know who you are.
Yeah, and it certainly has changed a lot. I mean, COVID did a number on our industry. I mean, I haven't checked today, but roughly there's more than 5,000 real estate agents that are licensed with the Greater Greenville Association of Realtors. That doesn't count Spartanburg or Western Upstate, okay?
Yeah.
There's a lot of us. When the recession hit, we were coming out of that, there were 1,600 of us.
Yeah.
So I think there was a massive opportunity that in hindsight, I didn't even recognize at that point, where like, I could really make my mark because there's less of us. And yes, we were sitting on so much inventory because it was a buyer's market.
Yeah.
And I just, like you, very persistent, I don't care if you tell me no over and over again. I'm like, let's just keep trying and trying, and having to sit sometimes with listings, and I'm not exaggerating, for upwards of 24 to 36 months back then.
Wow.
I'll never forget, in 2010, I had 36 listings on the ground.
Wow.
That's a lot of listings.
Yeah.
Because we were in the complete opposite of where we are now.
Right.
We're still in a strong seller's market. It's not. We're teetering on almost a little bit over 3 months of inventory, not in every price category, but it's starting to happen to where we're getting a little bit more balanced. People can get a second showing.
Yeah.
They can breathe for a moment before they make a decision on which house they want to buy.
And there's still a lot of people from outside, from other parts of the country coming here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not the same influx that we were seeing from mid-20 to about mid-23. And a lot of that has to do with the interest rates, certainly.
Yeah.
And they're starting to fall a bit. But I try to remind my buyers and younger agents, or even just agents new to the business, not necessarily younger than me, that what I was always told is anything less than a double-digit interest rate is just fine.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out what you can afford.
Yeah,
but,
historically.
Historically speaking, it's just that prices are high here. We've gotten whole new benchmarks here in Greenville than we used to.
Well, I think you'd get a lot more customers if we could figure out, as a country, legal immigration. because
Yeah.
I've got the most wonderful guy and family down in Ecuador that works for me, remotely, full time.
Yep.
And, he's got a degree in computer science. His wife has a nursing degree.
Absolutely.
And I did all I could to get him here, but it was going to cost 30 or 40 grand plus take 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they don't want to wait that long.
Right.
And so guess what we did? We went to Portugal. And Portugal said, we'll do it, which is a great country.
Yeah.
Said,
I've never been there.
all we have to do is prove that he makes more than, I think it was $60,000 a year, which he
Okay.
does. Prove that he has housing, and prove that the kids have a place to go to school.
Yeah.
3 things. So just get that done. And
You're done.
It takes 2 months and you're
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah.
so we would get all those kinds of people because he would love to come here first.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll probably
Yeah.
we'll get it eventually.
Oh, you'll get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot has changed. It's difficult for, I think about our oldest children are almost 26 and 22, and, they're going to be buying homes soon. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to find something that is affordable.
Right.
Because of, we won't get political and talk about all the economics of things, but it's crazy right
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. But again,
Are you using any AI or artificial intelligence in your business?
I am not. I mean, the closest thing I probably do to that right now is virtual staging,
Okay.
which has
Yeah.
come a long way.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it looked like my kid drew it.
Yeah.
Now it's come a long way because oftentimes you have homes where they might have already moved out, and it gives people an idea of scale
Yeah.
because a lot of folks cannot see, is that bed
can't.
going to fit
I
in
can't.
there? And
I
see,
can't.
I totally can, and I can start drawing it out for people, but many people cannot
Yeah.
see it. And so many people make decisions like this on their phone
Mm-hmm.
about a house, and your first showings happen on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
not when they come to your front door. So it's the people where I always tell them, if we're not getting showings, it's because they didn't like it at their first showing on their phone or
Yeah.
iPad.
Right.
So that's who we need to capture. And sometimes the virtual showing is, the virtual staging is
And what is
really
your,
helpful.
What is your most personal, most popular social media for promoting your business?
Instagram.
Instagram. Everybody, Instagram.
Yeah, I think Facebook is. I mean, basically, the story will go from Instagram to Facebook, so I get some exposure there. But a Facebook post, it just is not translating anymore.
Nothing.
And candidly, I have tried TikTok, and it is just so not, for me, easy to use.
Yeah.
Because my eyes are so bad, and so
Yeah.
much of that stuff is so small.
Yeah.
A lot of times I try to do it, and then I'll give it to one of the kids, or our youngest is still at home. I'm like, Ty, can you help your mother? And then, of course, I'm trying to find out, what's the trendy song, and I stay up on a lot of that, but I don't know. It's important, though. I mean, it's definitely a way to reach people globally, from all over the world.
Yeah.
And because of my marketing background, I just try to hit on all cylinders, whether it's print, direct mail, billboards, social media, networking, open houses. You just got to keep grinding until you get it done.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it might just be price.
Yeah. It might be.
It doesn't matter what else, how much money you spend.
Yeah.
If the price and the condition are not right, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to find a real match, right?
Yeah,
A match,
absolutely.
A match where people
Yeah,
find what
yeah.
they want. Yeah, I walk into a house that doesn't have any furniture, and I'm like, whoa, I can't see anything. My wife can see it pretty
Yeah,
well, but
yeah.
Todd Lorbach
Yeah.
is in investment banking now,
Yeah.
and he's got a sale going on with a virtual staging company.
Oh, wow, that's
Trying
awesome.
to help sell their company, and
That's
he
cool.
says they've just grown like crazy.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I I haven't used AI to write my remarks, for my listings. I like to write those myself because
Okay.
I have been in the home. I can feel it. A lot of times I find out from the seller, what is it about you? What do you love about this home?
Right.
And the neighborhood or the community or the area, and just make it more, you want to emotionally pull people, pull them in if they read. A lot of people, they don't read anymore either. So,
Let me ask you a couple of quick hitters here.
okay.
Favorite book?
Oh God. I mean, John, I this is terrible, but I am not a reader.
Okay,
And that's honesty
that's
right
fine.
there.
That's fine.
I don't even know the last book I read.
You know what? You're too busy selling.
I literally, and I know, and the thing is, I love to learn. I mean,
Yeah.
I love to go to classes that my company has. Sometimes I'll walk in, they're like, why is she here? But I can always get a little nugget
Yeah.
or think about how I can craft something different. But
Yeah.
I'm terrible. I don't even know
I
the
think
last book I read.
Most of us don't sit down and read whole books anymore.
It's important, though. I wish I did.
I wish
Maybe
I did too,
will
but
in 10
every,
years.
everyone I talk to, they're like, "Oh, you got to read more books." If someone says read a book, I'll go to YouTube and say book summary of such and such.
I like listening to podcasts.
Okay, that's good.
And
Hopefully noob
especially
school.
anything that has to do with serial killers or death or crime
I do not
stuff.
know what's going on with you ladies and your
I
serial killers.
love that stuff.
That's where you're thinking about getting
It's so
in
weird.
the basement.
Yeah,
getting abducted.
exactly. This is why I can't sleep at night. But for some reason, I get mesmerized by that stuff. It's terrible.
So I know you like music. Favorite band?
Band? Okay, so I have to say my favorite singer. I love Whitney Houston.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite song is I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Oh,
I tell
yeah.
all my friends, when I die, you'll have to play that on loop during, I don't care, the reception, the funeral, is over and over again.
I'll be there for I don't know if I'll be there, but if I am there, I will be.
You make sure.
I'll be
No, all my
dancing.
friends know. That's my favorite
And then
song.
favorite word.
Oh, okay. I have two.
Okay.
Can I take
Sure,
okay
of
two?
course.
Steadfast.
Like that.
I love the word steadfast. And hope. Those are my two, I
Love
think.
it. Well, tell me, first of all, if someone needs help in the real estate business, what's
Yes.
the easiest way to get in touch with you?
I would say, whatever works best for them, but I would say the fastest way to get to me is text me on my cell phone.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
864-918-1734.
Very good.
You can shoot me something because a lot of times I will respond to you, but I could be showing in a closing, doing something where I can't answer, but I would get back to people really
Yeah.
fast. That's the whole premise behind Greenville's Agent 24/7.
You're
Is I
ready to
try to be
roll.
responsive.
But let's talk about the big thing you've been promoting and working for,
Yeah.
your nonprofit. So
Yeah.
tell us about this.
Yep. So I lost my mom in July of 2014. So it's been 10 years from stage 4 breast cancer. And before she passed, we created Team Sammy. Her name was Sammy. She was the 5th of 5 girls, and she was the little general. Sammie, named after her father, Samuel. And so were doing a lot of things to rally around her, predominantly doing fundraising around the Race for the Cure with Susan G. Komen. And when COVID happened, I saw some changes with Komen. They were consolidating everything down, removing affiliates. There was no more Race for the Cure. And I just kept hoping and praying and really striving that I wanted to create some sort of signature event in her name and honor and help people in our community. And it just wasn't working anymore with Komen. And nothing against them. Amazing. My mom got certain drugs because of Komen's research, so I have nothing against them. And then here comes 2020, and I'm thinking, well, how am I going to raise money this year in Mom's name? Because we had done it for years. And by then, of course, she's been gone at that point for 6 years, and came up with the idea literally at Neat Bourbon Bar in downtown Greenville with my husband, the bar manager, who's a dear friend of ours, like a little brother to me, another patron. We were sitting there, and we came up with Bourbon for Boobs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
And I'm like, okay, I think this is good. This is good because obviously breast cancer and cancer in general, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, how much money you make, it's going to hit you. It's somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody you know, somebody you love. And likewise, bourbon is one of those things where, again, it transcends demographics, financials. Like you can have a cheap bourbon, you can have a very expensive bourbon. And a lot of people like it. To me, it's a classic. It can be trendy in some fashions.
Yeah.
We're certainly seeing more and more of it in the last 15 years, but it's been around a while.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that works. Because I always have to kind of think through the why around things. And of course it rhymed, you know. So,
Yeah. And, men like hearing the word as well.
yeah, they like those two things.
Yeah.
And it was fun because I'm not a corporate girl. Like I don't like boxes, and I want to be able to do things that will maybe surprise people, shock them maybe a little bit. And
Yeah.
it's memorable. And that's what
Yeah.
you have to do in this life. So I reached out to Pearlie Harris, Center for Breast Health at St. Francis, and said, I've got this concept and would love to, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'd love to give whatever we can to Pearlie Harris. And then I had the honor of meeting her several years back. And the moment I met her, I grabbed her hands, and I probably want to cry. I was like, oh my God, like I could almost feel my mother. It was, I know that sounds crazy, because Pearlie, of course, was a former school teacher, and my mom was too. And Pearlie has this, just like, she's feisty, and she's gritty,
Yeah.
but she is classy and Southern
Yeah.
and calming.
Yeah.
And that was so much like my mother.
Yeah.
And I just said, Pearlie, okay, this is going to work. And so year one, of course, we're in COVID. So there was a lot of restrictions and guidelines.
Yeah.
We raised $15,000 the first year, 45 people. And the generosity from the Greenville community just amazes me every single year, because the original partners I've had, Maker's Mark,
Yeah.
Society, Neat Bourbon Bar, the list goes on, Trey Francis, they have been with me since the beginning of this.
Yeah.
Year two, I'm like, 'cause I didn't want to get too big for my britches. I'm like, let's do it one more time in the same venue. Let's keep this thing small, but go a little bit bigger. Okay. We grew to 125 on a Sunday when Neat isn't open, and we could do it same venue.
Yeah.
Year three, I said, okay, we're going to go for it. It's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
So then it went to, now it's called the Foundry at Judson Mill.
Yeah. Another foundry. Yeah.
So now we're at year three at the Foundry. So we went from 15,000, 60,000, 85,000, 116,000, and the goal for this year is 126.
Nice.
So everything the goals are always in sixes, because my mom fought for 6 years from stage 4. So that's our angel number. So
Nice.
everything I do is in sixes. What I charge for tickets, the way I line things up, the number of tables, everything that we do is in sixes. So I would love to think that next year is year 6. And I told Tony just the other day, I said, okay, we're going to go for 160 for
Nice.
sure in year 6. And I don't know where this thing is going to go from here, because we have over 325 people, the sponsorships, what's so beautiful about this is that my overhead is only about $5,000.
Wow.
Like everything that we raise, it goes to them. So I'm not having to, because of the generosity of the people who own these venues, who play the music, who give the food, and of course the auction helps us make a lot of money. We're able to give so much back. And then it helps people in our community that are either not insured at all, underinsured, or who simply do not even have the transportation to get the mammograms. There's 2 mobile mammography units that go out to mission sites, churches, more rural areas in the upstate, because we know this is a wealthy community, but is a highly impoverished community as well. And that's really what I'm trying to do, is stop the breast cancer before it's even become a problem. Let's be preventative.
Excellent.
And get it to people who need it the most in my backyard.
So
you know.
when is the event?
October 24th.
October 24th.
Yep, we are 30 days out.
Okay.
All the tables and booths have been sold. But
Can people still come?
Yes, I've got 56 tickets left. And when
Okay.
I say I have 56, that is all I've got left, because
What do they cost?
$160.
That seems like a good
Shocker.
investment.
It is. You're going to have food from Society, Sandwich Bar on Coffee
Yeah.
Street, a Curian that's less than a year old,
Yeah.
female owned and operated on Augusta. And so those guys are going to give us the food. Trey Francis and his band are going to play. Maker's Mark is our signature bourbon. And so we'll have 3 different cocktails that people can try. And so you're going to get food, you're going to get bourbon. And for those people that are not bourbon drinkers, and ironically, I am not a bourbon drinker. I don't like bourbon.
Yeah.
It's a full cash bar. So you
good.
can get a vodka soda, you can grab a beer, a Diet Coke.
Okay.
So it's not like you have to,
Well,
partake.
congratulations on that. It sounds
Thank
like it's a
you.
great cause, and it goes
Yeah.
to the local community.
Yep, absolutely.
And you seem to be a superwoman. You can do it all.
I don't know.
You got a high energy anyway.
A lot of energy. Yeah, yeah. I just hope I can, just keep trucking and stay healthy and, just do what I got a lot to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, you read about people that start new careers at, in their 50s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm on like career number 3 or 4-ish. What else is to come?
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
Well,
and look
well,
at
well-
you with this podcast and all that
right.
you're doing.
That's right.
It's
Well,
awesome.
I think a lot of us like-minded souls like to do things.
Yeah. You just want to stay active
Yeah.
in your brain and, I don't know, just, work out and get up in the morning and just have a purpose.
Yep.
I think without that, if you don't have a purpose and a passion, like,
Then you need to find one.
exactly,
You
find
find one,
one.
yeah.
Figure it out. Like, go and help somebody and get some, it also gives you perspective.
Yeah.
Because you have bad days, but you also, I feel like, if you really know what's going on in other people's lives, you'd back up and say, wow, I'm pretty friggin' blessed. Like,
Yeah.
I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard someone say, if you're depressed or not feeling, go to the hospital. Volunteer to go to the hospital.
Yep, that's what I always tell my children
Yeah.
is if you're feeling down or just get in your own head or,
Yeah.
so I know there's a lot of people that are suffering and, but I think there are ways, healthy ways to, I don't know, maybe just get a little bit better and feel a little bit better about yourself.
Right.
I just,
Right.
so I'm not a psychiatrist or anything or whatever. Those are just my thoughts. So.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It only took 2 years.
I think
to
2
get you
years
here,
ish, maybe.
Because I am not offering a closing document for you to look at. But so you squeezed me in between a few closings. But thanks for coming.
Oh my God, thank you.
It's great feedback for the people that are interested in selling.
Yeah. Hopefully they learned a little something.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, my friend.
You're the best.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye-bye.